Hello everyone and welcome to another incredible game, also from the final round of the European Championship, where we catch a glimpse of the legend himself, of the immortal Ivanchuk, and here in this game he shows just why he was feared by pretty much every player in the world when he was in his peak. But even nowadays he can just comb through any position and find the correct reply. So let's see what this is all about. He's facing a strong Azerbaijani grandmaster, Mahammad Muradli. So let's see what happened here. We have d4, knight to f6, c4, e6. We have knight to f3 and pawn to d5. So this is the Queen's Gambit decline. And yeah, I forgot to mention before we check out the game, today ChatGPT 4 was released, and I was trying it out, checking what it can do. And I actually asked ChatGPT to annotate this game as if it were a 19th century nobleman, and this is the introduction for the game that it gave me. Gather round, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, as we regale you with the tale of the noble chess context betwixt the esteemed Sir Ivanchuk and the formidable Lord Muradli. Their wit and strategy shall be unraveled in a most delightful manner, befitting the eloquence of the 19th century nobility. It goes on, but you can truly do marvels with it. If I had something like this when I was doing the Morphe saga, who knows how it might have turned out. But okay, getting back to this game, and I might even throw in some Morphe games in there just to see what it comes up with. So if it's going to be fun, I'm going to share it. So d5, we have knight to c3, bishop to e7, and now bishop to f4. We have castles, and now queen to c2. Here the standard is e3. Queen to c2 is fairly rare, but we're gonna transpose into the known lines of theory. So captures. We have e3, pawn to c6, and bishop to d3, putting pressure on that h7 pawn, so you have to be careful. Rook e8, we have castles, and now knight to f8. We have h3, knight to g6, bishop to h2 as the bishop on f4 was attacked, bishop to d6, and here Vasyl trades. We have captures, and rook a to b1 now. We have pawn to a5, as Vasyl announced by playing rook a to b1. He wants to play b4, so of course Mahammad stops it. Rook f to c1, and now comes queen to e7. And there are some games where bishop to e6 was played, but here we have queen to e7, and it is now, as of move 15, that we have a completely new game. So knight to d2, fighting for that e4 square, but now knight to h4. We have g3 attacking the knight, and queen to d7, going after the h3 pawn. And capturing the knight is possible, but it yields only a draw. I will just show it because it is supposedly the strongest move recommended by the engine. Now you have to play bishop f1, attack the queen, and after this bishop to g2, so you don't have to worry about something like knight g4, queen h2 check, queen f2 checkmate. The bishop stops that, but still bishop h3 is very, very unpleasant. Let's say knight to f3, queen to g4 threatens checkmate, now knight to e1 defense. And okay, now there's really nothing better than to capture. Queen h3, now knight to g4 is coming, you're gonna play knight to f4, attack the black queen. If queen g4 check, you're gonna go back, and probably we'd see something like a repetition here. So instead, after this queen to d7 move, queen to d1, Vasyl does not touch the knight on h4, and okay, you don't want to overstay your welcome. Knight to f5, we have knight to e2, and now knight to d6. Now the e4 square is looking excellent, so knight to f4, and now we have knight f to e4. Beautifully placed knight there. We have h4, and now pawn to f6. We have knight captures on e4, knight captures on e4, and now rook to c2. Pawn to g5. Muradli is really going for that kingside attack. He wants to break through. On the king side, knight to h5. Now you have to be careful. Here Vasyl is threatening to eliminate the defender of the f6 pawn, and then knight captures on f6 will land with a monster fork. So queen to f7 defending the pawn, and now h captures on g5, f captures, and pawn g4 just defending the knight on h5. Rook to f8, now putting a fair amount of pressure on that f2 pawn, and pawn to f4. And this is a wonderful move. If it works, you know that you're going to have a good game, because if it doesn't, you just fall apart. The problem is here, after captures, you're going to play bishop captures on e4, and after, you don't really
gain anything by recapturing, just knight captures, and then the knight controls the queen and the rook. And if you try something sneaky like pawn to f3, let's say white tries to save the bishop, okay, then maybe you can have a nice attack, but white will just give back the material right away. And then we're just gonna see a trade, captures, 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 and captures, and probably something like rook f2, rook captures here. You're gonna double up on the f file, and now just bishop to e6. Bishop captures on g4 is impossible because you just go knight f6 check and pick up the bishop, or rook g2 check, and then you pick up the rook g2. You don't allow the bishop to move, and then you capture it. So without this capture, it's still fine for both sides. But instead of g captures on f4, we have knight back to f6. And now knight captures on f6 with check, queen captures, and now pawn to f5. Now Vasyl can be very happy as he prevented the attack from happening, but not quite yet. h5 now threatens to weaken the base of the pawn chain. Rook to f2, and now bishop to d7. And here we have g captures on h5. This is the first move recommended by the engine because the engine pretty much always grabs a pawn, and the Vasyl plays it, showing that he knows how to play chess. Rook 8 to e8, we have queen to f3, and now king to h7, preparing to block the pawn with king to h6, and you will be very, very safe there. Queen to g3, now the queen has access to this diagonal, which could be very important. King to h6, and now a3, trying to get that pawn to b4 in, but Mahammad prevents it again with pawn to a4. We have bishop to c2 by Vasyl going after the a4 pawn, and now comes rook to e7. And this is truly a spectacular moment in the game where okay, you don't really want to go after the a4 pawn because the bishop is also needed to defend the f5 pawn. It's being attacked by the bishop, by the queen, and by the rook. But again, it is the top move recommended by the engine, and Ivanchuk plays it. He plays bishop captures on a4, and it looks like a move a Patzer would play. But it's a very, as always in chess, it's a very thin line between a Patzer and the genius, and you know, you have to be careful when playing such moves, but Vasyl calculates correctly. And now bishop captures on f5 is impossible, but you have to calculate very deeply to understand why. His opponent missed it. He played bishop captures on f5, and now look at this. Rook b to f1. Of course, now the bishop cannot move, but just queen to e6, unpinning. And now what's the move that Vasyl saw when he played bishop captures on a4 that is possible in this position now? Feel free to pause the video and win the game for Vasyl while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting this instant resigns move for black. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is pawn to e4. So congratulations to everyone who found it. It's a very, very forcing idea, and it doesn't leave any options for black. Obviously, you can't capture with the bishop because the rook captures on f8. And also, yeah, congratulations to everyone who found this. You are a true master of finding a correct path in complicated positions, but it still seems very unlikely. Queen captures, d captures, this is all possible. How is this so crushing for white? The problem is if queen captures, you have bishop to c2. The rook guards the bishop, and now you just blunder a piece. But even this, look at this, queen captures on d4. Now pins the rook, so you don't have to worry about the bishop on f5, but now comes bishop captures on f5, and now you realize it was never the bishop you had to worry about, it was the rook on, on e7. And now rook captures on f5, queen to d6 with check, and that just loses black too much material. King captures, queen captures on e7, and you are now down a full rook. So absolutely incredible. So that's why after pawn to e4, d captures on e4 was played, but now again you have bishop to b3. Again, the queen defends the bishop. You have to move from this diagonal. Queen to d7, and now rook captures on f5. The rook on e7 is the real target of the line, and that's what Ivanchuk saw when he played bishop captures on a4. And if you also saw that, then okay, you are truly a spectacular chess player. So rook captures on f5 was played, rook captures on f5, and now, okay, if you capture, then queen to d6 check, picks up the rook here, king captures, queen, but now not queen captures on e7. That's the interesting part, because then queen to g4 check, and black will get a perpetual. First you play bishop d1 check, and then well, there's really not much you can do here. If you go king to h4, you just get checkmated, and it's quite the checkmate. Queen to h2 checkmate, as bishop covers the light squares. You would have to play something after bishop to d1 check like g4, but it's not much better. Queen captures, now you don't have to worry about queen to g4 check, and it's just up a bishop. So after rook captures on f5, queen captures on d4 check was played. This is Muhammad's last attempt. And now king to h1. We have queen to d2 and now rook to f6 with check. We have king to h7 and now rook to f2. And it was in this position on move 44 that Mahammad Muradli resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Here the problem is, okay, you could throw in some checks. Let's say queen to e1 check, king to g2, and now even e3 looks scary, but look at this, bishop to c2 check, king has to move, king to g8, and now queen to b8 with check. We have king to g7, and now queen to f8 checkmate. This is only one of the lines that ends in checkmate. There are many, and all of them end in checkmate. So after rook f2, Muradli resigned, and what a brilliant victory for the legend Vasyl Ivanchuk. But yeah, he had to see it. After rook to e7, he had to see rook capture, bishop captures on a4, and this is always important, even in your own games. Even though the action is on the king side, you know this is a very important pawn, but this pawn is hanging, so you know, try to waste a few minutes if you have them, calculating the exact idea, because here it's definitely the strongest move, and it allowed for this brilliancy to happen. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very nicely done by the legend himself. I would like to thank an anonymous person, Happy33, Lost One, Dennis Charbonneau, and Felix Daffel for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.